So, this right here is what happens when LaMelo Ball decides he's pulling up from 31 feet to put the game away.
The kill shot.
And if he's not launching it from deep and the defense thinks they have him cut off when he's pursuing the rim, this is where those slick dump-offs come in handy. Listen, there's no version of LaMelo Ball that's easy to defend. Guard him tight on the perimeter, well, he'll use his bag of tricks to get past you to score. If you give yourself a step to counter a drive, he'll show you why you need to step out. And if you load the paint with bodies when he's en route, he'll quickly find the opening to set up one of his teammates to cash in. With his skill set, he was able to put up 20 points a game with 7 assists to go along with it, and with LaMelo landing in Minnesota with Anthony Edwards, everybody wants to talk about the fit, the numbers, and whether this backcourt can actually work together. And that's nice and all, but in today's video brought to you by ProdGxm, it's not about these two coexisting. This is about diving deep into a guy who's walking into Minnesota who might just be the most complete offensive weapon he's ever been. When analyzing LaMelo and hearing the critics talk about he doesn't play winning basketball, I'm sure they say that because they don't like when he does things like this.
Whole bunch of nothing right now.
But see, the thing is, it's shots like that that make LaMelo's entire game work. The reason I say that is because when you're knocking down nearly 37% of your 5 pull-up threes per game, this makes defenders have to key in on guarding you once you pass half court, and if they're so focused on ball launching it from deep as you can see on this play, that allows Miller, or if you want to plug in Anthony Edwards here instead, to now catch this alley-oop while everyone watches. Now hold on, we'll get into his passing even more later, but I want you to answer something for me. Why wouldn't you want a guy on your team who's confident to let it fly? I'm sure some people will say because the shot selection can be subpar at times, but I think that's something you can live with when you have a player like Ball on your roster. To be a threat at any time you come up the floor is huge for a team, and it keeps the defenders on their toes each and every possession. Like when coming off this screen here, Cat is right there to be ready for a LaMelo drive, and Bridges is recovering over the top. Now after using the sidestep, Melo could decide to send it up, but with Michael looking to contest, this is when you switch it up to then send it to the corner, and that's one time he made the defense bite during this play. And now, instead of sitting in that same spot, Ball moves towards the top of the key to give Khan a better passing angle, and when catching, he can make Bridges bite again on the up fake, and this right here is straight cash. That right there is exactly what I mean by keeping the defense on their toes, because 1 second you'll be guarding him tight, thinking that you have him locked up, but with his jerky movements, all it takes is one abrupt stop into a crossover to get himself squared up, and with all this space between him and the defender, Melo is already locked in. To build on this further, you have to understand that Ball has no fear when he's on the floor and genuinely doesn't see a shot he doesn't like. The offense can be stagnant with no real attack angles, but for LaMelo, it's just an invitation to go to the playground. Confidence like this is key no matter how you want to put it, as with this confidence comes the ability to be creative on the floor. LaMelo can always use his handle to create openings for looks at any time during a possession, and this is why he's such a tough cover when it comes to stopping his shot off the dribble from deep. This here presents the first problem for the defense that then goes on to open up the floodgates, as now when you're aware of his ability to pull up from anywhere on the floor, you have no choice but to press up on him. But trust me, he's no slouch when it comes to getting downhill, and will actually have some tricks up his sleeve to showcase. That play right there was nice, and here versus Washington, the pressure is on and heavy, but it doesn't faze Melo whatsoever. He just uses the screen to create that initial separation from his defender, and with CJ getting out to cut off a Melo attack, he makes a brutal mistake by leaving a slight gap in the middle between him and the screen, so that's when Ball can shift directions in a quickness to break past to go score. Just so you know this isn't a one-off thing, you once again see CJ jump out hard to stop Melo, but every time this happens, he'll show you why you have to close the gap. Now look, sometimes a defender will do a solid job of not leaving a gap, but this is where that handle and creativity we touched on in his three-point shooting comes into play. To create that opening so he can split through, Melo sells the attack left hard to then use a crossover, the gap now opens up, and to the rack he goes for the bucket. Plays like that showcase how Melo can make anything happen on the court if he wants to, and it doesn't matter how he has to do it. Not every time will it just be him splitting the defense off screens, as sometimes he'll have to get in that mud to create something even if it isn't the prettiest. And then other times, he'll just be extra smooth with the crossover to get downhill, and when the defense is practically breathing down his neck, he uses that inside hand to slip this in with some elegance. Yeah, like I said, no slouch at all when it comes to scoring inside, and I hope he starts to attack even more when he's in Minnesota. Getting downhill like this is something that can break the defense to yield your team great results, whether that be an open drive or a kick out to a teammate for a clean look. But hey, what happens when LaMelo is stopped from getting all the way inside? Well, that's when he can use that floater from near 15 feet out before the big can even react to what's happening. Most of the times when guys come off the screen or are attacking downhill, you're expecting them to go all the way to the basket. And this is why I say the mid-range and floaters are two of the most important shots to have in your game, because it's in this gray area where the defense doesn't know whether to step up or to stay back where you can thrive. And for LaMelo, he does this time and time again. For instance, when ball fumbles the handle right here and falls down, you would expect the play to be over with since he has no live dribble and seemingly no open look. But when you remember that he does have his 2 steps and a great touch with that floater, you soon learn that the play is never over when LaMelo has the ball. This floater can be used at any time from any angle on the floor, and it keeps the defense guessing as to which shot that he's going to pull out that bag. This here is what makes the defense key in on him heavily when he's on the floor, and now gives him the golden opportunity to tear them apart with his facilitating. But before we dive deep into that, we have to hear a quick word from our sponsor. If you know you can play responsible and have the means to do so, PrizePicks is the #1 app for sports picks. When you go to PrizePicks, you'll see that there's many different sports to choose from, along with many different categories to select picks. It's pretty easy. All you do is pick more or less on a player's stats, and it puts them in your lineup. And if you want, PrizePicks now offers team picks where you either pick the winner, spread, or total and lock it in. Here's how simple it is to add picks for a lineup. For example, Angel Reese for more than 15 points, let's do it. Alicia Gray for more than 17, yeah, let's pick that as well. And then after going through and locking in more picks, I can finalize my lineup and let the magic happen. The greatest part about this is that PrizePicks is available in over 40 states, including California, Florida, Texas, and if you sign up for PrizePicks with code HMA, play your first $5 and get $150 in lineups if you win. That's right, PrizePicks just switched up their offer. So lock in, win that first lineup, and that's code HMA at sign up to get $150 in bonus lineups if you win your first $5 lineup. So either download the app or click the link in my description to get started. Now look, we've dissected why defenses can't just guard him one way and expect things to go perfectly, as LaMelo can score the ball at all 3 levels and he does so with confidence. Pairing that next to Anthony Edwards in Minnesota will be key, as it gives them another guy who can put the ball in the basket when they need a bucket, but the biggest void that he's going to come in to fill is that playmaking role. For years, Edwards has needed to improve his decision making as far as passing the ball, and although he's slightly improved, it's not to the point where you can lean on him to be your main offense initiator. But when you flip over the ball, he already has this natural feel when it comes to passing, and he does it so well that he makes it look easy. Now I know when you look at his 7 assists per game, to some people it can seem kinda average for a solid point guard in the league. But when you see that he dished out 11.8 potential assists per game, it shows you that he's locating his guys for great looks numerous times throughout a game, and now it's just up to them to capitalize. I mean, look at this play right here. LaMelo has 3 defenders all around him in the paint, and for most players, they would either try to force up a shot, dump it off right here, which could get picked off, or make for a tough finish for his teammate. So instead of all of that, LaMelo maneuvers around the defense in midair to send this out with his offhand, and now Trey Mann can cash in from the sideline. Honestly, a play like that is only an option if you can make the defense commit a ton of attention to you, and if you can make decisions in a split second. In this position off the screen, LaMelo could look to hit the roller, which is the usual option. But with 2 defenders committed to stopping LaMelo, this makes the big have to be ready to cover the roll, leaving Brandon Miller wide open, and LaMelo doesn't hesitate 1 second when making this read. When you have the job of setting up the offense, you can't be rushed or hesitant. You have to be moving at the right speeds in a calm manner while also being able to read the defense so you can stay 2 steps ahead of them. For example, once the backline defender starts to shift over to help out on the pick and roll, that's when Melo will zip it to the opposite corner for that money ball. It may seem simple, but when he's operating out the top and the double comes to him, he doesn't try and make things more difficult than they need to be, as he'll just use that gap between the defenders to bounce it to Con for the floater, and then when he receives the ball to then attack off the screen, all eyes are on LaMelo and what he's going to do next. And while most are thinking that he's going to use a floater, it's actually what they don't see that ends up hurting them the most. This here is why it's important to have a guy on the floor who looks to pass and can make every pass there is possible. There will be times where Gobert would have the angle to receive the ball or kickouts on the floor that would have made for a better possession, but the Timberwolves just didn't have a guy who could constantly punish the defense for their lack of coverages. Things like this is what make me push back on the narrative that LaMelo Ball doesn't play winning basketball. Just because his game can be flashy, exciting, and unpredictable doesn't mean that he's playing bad basketball. I mean, let's be honest, he was with the Hornets, who weren't the best team to judge as far as winning basketball, and that's why the blame was placed on him, as he was the lead guard. With LaMelo now in Minnesota, we're finally going to see people open their eyes to just how good he can be and how he can uplift a team completely. But let me ask you this, do you think this version of LaMelo paired with Anthony Edwards can lead them out the West, or will they once again continue to fall short? If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any content. And if you've made it this far, I have a special gift for you. You've unlocked a special LaMelo card on my website to use in your rec lineup. All you have to do is head over to hoopmasteryvo.com, go to the rec, and under rec codes type in LaMelo 1 of 1. This here unlocks him straight into your locker, and then you can use him in your lineup to play against me, another member on the site, or play a full season.